I want to tell you about a moment I had with someone I was coaching a couple of years ago. She'd been in this push-pull thing with an avoidant partner for almost 18 months, and she came to me not because she was confused. She thought she already knew what to do. She said, "I just need to make it easier for him to come back. If I lower the pressure, make the reconnection feel safe and smooth and simple, he'll choose me." I listened, and then I told her the honest thing. That exact belief, the one she was so certain about, was the thing keeping her stuck. Not her feelings, not her attachment, not even his avoidance. That belief, this myth, that if you just make it easier, they'll finally come back and stay. And I need to talk about this today, because I see it everywhere. In comments, in messages, in the way people describe their situation. Same story, slightly different details, someone pulls away. The other person, usually the one who cares more, starts softening everything, lowering expectations, removing friction, making the door not just open but practically off its hinges, thinking this is what they need. Space, ease, no pressure. Here's the myth in its cleanest form. If you make reconnection easy enough, an avoidant will take it. Most people get this completely wrong. And the reason they get it wrong is because the logic sounds so reasonable. Of course someone returns to something easy. Of course reducing pressure helps. Of course being warm and available beats being cold. That's what normal human psychology says. But avoidant attachment doesn't follow normal human psychology. That's literally the whole point of it. Let me show you what's actually happening underneath. There's a key mechanism researchers call deactivating strategies, designed specifically to suppress attachment-related thoughts and feelings, especially when emotional intimacy increases. This isn't a choice. It isn't bad intentions. When a relationship deepens, or when the intensity of reconnection brings up strong emotions, their internal alarm system fires. The deactivation strategy is their automatic, often unconscious, response to quiet that alarm. A psychological retreat. A way to regain control when they feel overwhelmed. So read that again. Their system fires when intimacy increases. Not when someone's being demanding. When it gets closer, when it gets real. And here's what nobody actually sits with long enough. You making reconnection easy doesn't reduce intimacy. It accelerates the timeline toward it. You removing friction means you're removing the only thing that was slowing down that approach intimacy collision. You think you're helping. Their nervous system reads it as the threat arriving faster. That's the part that breaks the myth wide open. Because what an avoidance system is reacting to isn't the difficulty of reconnection. It's the closeness that reconnection means. People with avoidant attachment prioritize independence, appear emotionally distant, uncomfortable with vulnerability, rooted in those deactivating strategies where they suppress attachment needs. And neurobiologically, this correlates with reduced limbic system activation during intimacy cues. Their brain literally processes closeness differently at a physical level. You making things easy doesn't rewire that. It just means the closeness arrives with less warning. Now I want to go somewhere most people don't go with this. Because here's the uncomfortable truth underneath the myth, and this is the part I really need you to hear. The reason you believe making it easier will work, the real reason, is because you're working from your own emotional logic. Your logic says when someone I care about makes things easier for me, I lean in. When someone removes pressure, I feel safe. When the door is open, I walk through. That's secure logic or anxious logic. Either way, it's yours. But you're not applying it to yourself. You're applying it to someone whose nervous system learned in childhood that closeness with attachment figures is threatening. Not dangerous in a rational sense, threatening at the level of the body, below thought. And here's something that genuinely stopped me when I first read it. Neuroscientists have found that people with avoidant attachment may have a different response to oxytocin, the bonding hormone, the one that's supposed to make connection feel good. For avoidance, it can sometimes trigger anxiety and a pull to withdraw when intimacy feels overwhelming. Their brain may actually suppress the positive bonding effects of oxytocin to maintain distance, which is wild when you think about it. The chemical that's supposed to make closeness feel good sometimes works against the grain in avoidant individuals, not because they're broken, but because they were wired in an environment where getting too close meant getting hurt, or disappointed, or abandoned, or just completely overwhelmed. So when you soften everything, when you become the most low-maintenance, zero-friction, easy version of yourself, you're not speaking to their heart. You're speaking directly to their deactivating system. And their system says, oh, the closeness is coming, and there's nothing slowing it down now. Let me tell you what actually happens when an avoidant realizes you won't make reconnection easy. Something unexpected shifts. Research shows that avoidant individuals tend to use indirect strategies for ending or avoiding relationships and don't typically attempt to reconnect on their own. Their default when disconnection happens is relief, then maintenance of that distance. That's the autopilot. But when you stop being easy to return to, when you stop keeping the door propped open, stop being the emotional safety net they can land on without doing anything different, something genuinely disrupting enters their world. Chris Fraley's research on adult attachment shows that avoidant individuals maintain what he called latent attachment representations, emotional bonds that stay neurologically intact even when consciously inaccessible. They still feel the connection. They haven't deleted you, but they've filed you somewhere they don't have to access regularly because you've always been available without effort. When you stop being available without effort, that file gets pulled out, not because of a strategy, not because of a tactic, because you've introduced something real, consequence. The quiet, non-dramatic consequence of not being managed, not being chased, not being made easy. And for someone who's organized their entire emotional architecture around keeping people at a manageable distance, that actually registers in a way that your availability never did. Amir Levine and Rachel Heller called this the anxious-avoidant trap. Couples stuck in this painful cycle for months, sometimes years, and the trap has a specific mechanism. The avoidant's behavior is driven by fears of losing independence. The more the anxious partner chases closeness, the more suffocated the avoidant feels and the further they pull back. You making things easy doesn't break the trap. You making things easy is the trap. It's the mechanism that keeps the whole thing running. Here's the thing nobody actually talks about. You stopping the ease isn't punishment. It's not a game. It's not some technique you found online. It's about something much more basic. Telling the truth about what's actually happening between two people. Because what was happening is this. You were managing both sides of the connection. Negotiating for basics, responsiveness, follow-through, emotional availability. You started doubting your own needs, lowering your expectations, over-functioning just to preserve something, loving someone who can touch intimacy and then disappear from it, leaving you holding the whole relationship alone, wondering what happened. That's not a relationship. That's one person working a second job they never applied for. And when you stop, when you genuinely stop making it easy, you're not breaking the relationship. You're revealing what was always true about it. Either there's enough real drive in them to do something with that discomfort, or there isn't, and you stop spending years finding that out the slow way. I want to be honest about something here because I've seen this get misread. Some people here don't make it easy and turn it into withdrawal as a weapon. Cold silence calculated to provoke, performed indifference. That is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is genuinely putting your energy back into yourself. What psychiatrist Thomas Lewis calls limbic attraction is relevant here. The emotional brain recognizes a familiar pattern and interprets it as love, when really it's recognizing a familiar schema. And dopamine, the neurotransmitter of desire and motivation, is especially active in situations of uncertainty. The anxious-avoidant cycle creates an emotional roller coaster that the brain can literally read as passion. So part of what you've been feeling, that intensity, that pull, that sense that this person is the one, is partly a neurological response to the uncertainty itself, not to them specifically. The pattern is addictive. The unpredictability keeps the dopamine loop firing, and the only way to interrupt that loop is to genuinely stop feeding it. Not perform stopping. Actually stop. Stop researching how to get them back. Stop engineering your behavior to create a specific reaction. Stop trying to find the magic version of yourself that will finally make them want to stay. Avoidant deactivating strategies include mentally diminishing a partner's value, shifting focus onto personal goals or hobbies to avoid emotionally charged interactions. That's their defense. You genuinely investing in your own life, your own goals, your own healing. That's not a strategy. It's the opposite of staying stuck. Here's where I land. The myth that making reconnection easy brings someone back is appealing because it gives you something to do, a role, a lever to pull, some way to feel like you still have influence over the outcome, and I get that. When you care about someone and they're pulling away, the desire to have something to do is almost unbearable. But here's what's actually true. Research shows avoidant individuals actively suppress separation-related thoughts under normal circumstances. But under high cognitive load, those defenses work less smoothly. The thing they've been avoiding starts surfacing. Translation: when you're no longer there doing the emotional management, their walls don't hold as well. That's not a guarantee of return. I want to be clear about that. Some avoidant people, when genuinely left to sit with themselves, choose the ease of distance every single time. The avoidant breakup cycle is pretty predictable. Relief, then freedom, then delayed grief, then sometimes a return. But whether they return or not, that's not actually the most important part of this. The most important part is who you become in the meantime. Because here's what I know after watching this dynamic over and over. The people who stopped making it easy, who genuinely, not performatively, redirected their attention toward their own lives, they became someone different. Not harder, not colder, more real, more grounded, more clear about what they actually want and what they won't accept again. And that version of you doesn't wait by the door. That version of you has already started building something new, whether the avoidant walks through or not, because you finally understood something the myth was blocking you from seeing. You were never meant to be anyone's emotional safety net. You were never meant to prop a door open and stand there hoping they'd eventually decide you were worth the effort. You deserve someone who walks toward you, not because you made it easy, because they decided, on their own, from somewhere real inside them, that you're someone worth the discomfort of actually showing up for. Stop making it easy, not as a tactic, as the truth.